it is one of those things when you are doing your priority list and your value list, take a look at the people who are supporting those values as well.
Prioritizing self-care is one of the Dennison household staples. We really love to focus on our physical, mental, and emotional well-beings with regular exercise, healthy eating. Welcome to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode, 5 Fears That Break Careers. If you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to it yet, make sure to check it out or send it to a friend or colleague who's looking for ways to get better and to grow in their professional advancement.
Yeah. And today for episode 5, we're talking about work-life balance, the unreachable dream. Is it? I don't know. We're going to talk about it today. And let's not kid ourselves, right? Work-life balance is possible, but it's possible if we define it for you specifically and what that looks like, right? It seems so elusive. Right? People talk about work-life balance, work-life integration, all of that stuff. But a big part of that is understanding that work-life balance doesn't necessarily mean an equal split of work and personal life. Instead, it really refers to finding a sustainable integration of your work, your personal life, and your overall well-being that aligns with your priorities and your values. And what we're going to go over today is some techniques and some ways that you can really become a little bit more self-aware of what your values are, what your priorities are, and how you can start noticing where things are really working in your work and your personal life and where things maybe aren't working, right? And how you can make some tweaks in your professional life, your personal life, so that you can start living the life that you want, right? That's a little bit more aligned and a little bit more authentic to your highest self, your highest good, so that you can have a fulfilling and impactful life that you wake up and you're excited about every day. And yeah, you have to work, but really that you're making the most out of every hour that you're awake, right?
Absolutely. It's not about making the life perfect, right? We're never going to have it ideal what we want, but it's just making it better to how it aligns and really fuels our own life and our own circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ideally, I would love to be on a beach every day, right? Not having to work and being a millionaire, of course, but we have to work and we have priorities in our home life. How do we integrate the two of them? And how do we go to bed with a smile on our face and waking up with a smile on our face again, excited to hit the day? So we have a couple of different ways for you to really start getting curious about what do you want out of your life? What do you want out of your day? And how can we get closer to what that ideal day looks like for you? So, Jack, why don't we talk about that first thing?
Yeah. So the first thing is really focusing on defining your priorities and determining really what matters to you, right? Both in the professional and personal life, we need to clarify what our values, our goals, and aspirations are. And we need to use them as a guide when making decisions about how we want to allocate our time and energy, because it allows us to really focus on where we need to put our time and energy, right? Because if we have bills that are outstanding that we need to take care of, our main focus is going to be on those bills, on those goals that we need to hit for ourselves, right?
Yeah. And what I really like about this, about defining our priorities, is really defining what are your values? What are your aspirations? What really means the most to you, both in your professional and your personal life? And a quick exercise that you can do to help you out with this is set a timer, right? Set a timer for 5 minutes and write down everything that you want out of life. And a couple of ways to do this is think about your experiences that you want to experience. What are the ways that you want to contribute either to your family, to the workplace, to your community? And what are some of the growth experiences? How do you want to grow back into the best version of yourself? What experiences do you want to have so that you're growing, right? And when you write all of these down, and why I have you set a timer is because you can think about this all day long and you'll just run yourself into circles, right? But if you set a timer and you think of just what's at the top of your head, most likely what will come up when you think about what time you have left on this earth and what you want to experience, the growth experience, and what you want to give back, you're going to start coming up with the values and the priorities that you want in your life. Why do I want you to do this? Well, what you're going to find is that you're going to find, does your current job, right? Is your current career aligning with the values that you want out of life? Now, sometimes you might think, well, my job is just a job. It's just something to pay my bills. And what is really important is the rest of my life. Well, what we strongly believe in, right, is that your career affects the rest of your life, right? The rest of your life, you kind of need money in order to do, experience, live, pay bills, etc. And so what we find is that if you are aligned, if your job is aligned with your values and what you want to grow and contribute to the rest of the world and to your life, you tend to have a better integrated personal life. You're able to make a better impact. Also, most likely your relationships, your spousal relationship, your relationship with your kids, and your relationship with yourself, right? Your health and your mental health tend to be in better alignment and more healthy if you are working in a job in which you are aligned authentically with your values. And so this is why I'm talking about this so passionately, is because a lot of times we only have this conversation with ourselves in high school. When we are asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? Pick a path and then go get a degree in it. But most often we go on that path and then we're 5, 10, 15, 20 years down that path, and we never have that conversation again and say, wait a minute, is this still in alignment with who I am after I've changed and lived a little bit of life? And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're kind of feeling like, ooh, I don't have that work-life integration that I want, I don't have the career that I want, do this exercise, sit down and really ask yourself, what do I want out of my life and what do I value? And is my job giving this to me? And is my personal life giving this to me? Because this will kind of give you a little bit of an awareness.
Yeah. And once we know what that awareness is and what those priorities, now we can set up a routine, set up a structure to actually be able to go hit those. And we're not just kind of doing what we can in the moment that we're called to it, right? We're actually have a structure and a plan.
Yeah. The other thing about defining your priorities is you're also going to see, hey, in my personal life, am I making these things a priority? When I want to have these experiences, how I want to grow, how I want to contribute to the world, am I actually doing these things? Am I spending time with my kids? Am I spending time with my spouse? Or am I kind of burned out from work and am I just zoning out in front of Netflix, right? So when we are starting to look at work-life integration, work-life balance, we need to do a quick audit, right? A quick audit of our time and how we're spending our time and how it aligns with our priorities. So this is really an important first step.
I think that was awesome. And it kind of leads us into the next one.
It really does.
Which is?
Yeah, setting boundaries. Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
That's a tough one. Setting boundaries, it's a tough one, especially when you're not sure what we need to set boundaries for, right? That's why Kara wanted you to define those priorities. But establishing clear boundaries between work and your personal life is so key, because this allows you to really have designated work hours, avoiding work-related activities, and during personal time, as well as communicating your boundaries effectively with colleagues, your bosses, loved ones, so that you're not wasting time in areas that are keeping you from feeling aligned.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a lot of different types of boundaries. We could do a whole podcast on this, but specifically when it comes to work and the boundaries that you have at work, time and space boundaries are going to be really important. So specifically with remote work, boundaries get crossed all the time, right? Especially if you're working at home. I like to have a space boundary where you are only working on work at your designated work area. It's so much easier, right, to leave the work at the office when you're traveling into the office. But that also means not answering emails, right, when you're not at the office or not at your designated office space if you're working from home. And then time boundaries, right? Really communicating to your team or to your leader and saying, hey, I'm not going to be responding when I'm not, quote unquote, in the office or at office hours, so that you can truly be present with your personal life and the people surrounding your personal life when you are there, right? And really communicating, hey, I'll get back to you in the morning, or I will be only communicating at this time. And it's absolutely okay and professional to set those boundaries. When it comes to boundaries in your personal life, these are just as important. How many times have we in our life, right, had a family member or friend that signed us up for stuff or had that question? Oh, I hate this question. Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I hate tell me why. Why? Why are you asking? Because if you're asking me to move, I'm super busy. If you're asking me to a party, I'm available, right? So it depends on what it is. So it is absolutely okay for you to set the boundaries and say, my weekends, my personal time is very important for me, for my kids, for whatever it is, for these priorities. And this is what I value. I will only see you once a month or this amount of time, or for certain activities. That's okay to say. And in fact, it actually helps, right? To let your family, friends, etc., people know when and for what activities you are available for, because it eliminates those guessing games.
I love that. But also one important part of boundary setting, it's for yourself.
Absolutely.
One part that I noticed for myself, that when we first started dating,
Mm-hmm.
I was one of those individuals who was calendar averse. I did not want a calendar, and that created conversations of contention because I just didn't feel that it was something that was going to help me.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I wasted a lot of time. I had a lot of questions. I always needed somebody to tell me where to go, what to do, and keep track of things. Well, all of a sudden, once I had a calendar that I was setting boundaries for myself, knowing these things need to be executed at these times, all of a sudden I started having more time on my calendar. I started having more time to do things for myself. That is where boundaries really come into play, with that self-discipline as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Our third one is delegate, delegate, delegate.
Woo. This one's a little scary because if you haven't learned how to delegate tasks, you have to learn that skill. And what we really recommend is, whenever possible in your career, in your personal life, if you can, delegate and prioritize whenever possible. Because if you can get added responsibilities to others that are capable and being able to help you out and being able to take some of that burden or mental burden off of your shoulders, now all of a sudden identifying the tasks that require your expertise or your focus, you can focus on those and still entrusting others to be able to handle the tasks that can be effectively handled by them. For instance, there are certain things within the household priorities that I might be a little bit better at, that I move a little faster. I enjoy doing a little bit more than maybe Kara does. Mm-hmm. So we've split up those duties and tasks to where they fall under my purview so that I can handle them. And this keeps the household moving more efficiently. Mm-hmm. But it can also work with your teams. If you have a team member that's very technical, very, very skilled, but very needs something explained in a certain way, maybe they might be the fact finder of your team. Hey, go find out this information. But then you have other people on your team who are better at communicating, better at presenting. Maybe they're the ones to present the findings that the other individual found to the rest of the team, so that we can all have that information and be able to push things forward. And now, as the leader, if you have somebody working on the information, the other one's putting together a presentation, you can work on the high-level strategies that need to be executed that maybe those other individuals aren't as adept at doing. And now we're expediting the process of that execution of project.
Absolutely. When it also comes to delegating, think about things around your house and in your personal life that you might want to delegate out, right? So for instance, for us, when we when we bought our first home, and we now are not renting and we have to take care of a lawn, right? Thinking about the cost of buying a lawnmower, having to mow every other week or every week, and that amount of time investment in our life and how much an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of our time is worth, and the things that we can be doing versus going out and finding a guy or a lawn company to come and do our lawn. It made more sense for us to delegate that out. Now, not everyone might not be at that place. And if you have a lawnmower, great. But for us, it made more sense in the ROI on our time. One of the things, depending on if work-life balance is a priority for you right now, look at the things that you could potentially hire out if you have the funds and if you are able to do that, to see, is it worth it? And are you potentially spending so much of your time doing something that maybe is affordable and can be fitting into your budget? For instance, if you're spending all day Saturday, every Saturday cleaning your house, would it be more effective to have someone come and deep clean your house every month or every other week or something like that, right? So there are ways to think outside of the box. Even potentially if you have to take your kid to a soccer practice every week or something like that, but your neighbor is also doing that, switching back and forth and doing carpooling, right? So there's other ways to really think about delegating some of the tasks or the things on your plate in your personal life out, depending on the ROI and if it's in your budget.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that one's great. Well, I guess number 4 is really kind of touching on what I kind of alluded to earlier when we were boundaries. It's practicing effective time management and developing effective time management strategies such as prioritizing tasks, setting realistic deadlines, utilizing productivity techniques such as one of my favorites, the Pomodoro technique, or even time blocking on your calendar. This allows you to avoid situations where you're multitasking and you can strive for focused, efficient work to create more time for your personal life. And where I really like this is when I've got certain tasks I need to do around the house. I try to do them all at the same time. As I'm moving from a certain area to a location, if I'm cleaning or decluttering the house, I want to grab everything from a certain room, get that and move it out of the area so that one room is complete, finalized, so that I don't have to keep coming back into that room to do little tiny things. Other ways to kind of look at it. If I'm working on some things for my clients and I'm working on potentially a project with sourcing some individuals to network for some of our clients, I can run multiple lists for our clients to connect with at the same time. In fact, I did that earlier today because I'm in that system. I'm using that system. My brain is also at that train of thought. So it's going to be moving at the most efficient way possible instead of switching to another task and coming back and doing it again later and maybe losing a couple minutes in terms of that time switch. What do you think about that?
I love that. So what Jack's talking about is really when it comes to time management, what we have found to be really effective is taking just a couple of minutes and really task dumping, right? And creating that to-do list so that we can look at the tasks that really make sense to do together or stacked so that we're making the most of our time, so that we're doing less brain switches from like a creative task to a logical task to a whatever, because we're creating less of those switches, which creates less of that time with your brain having to make that switch over to it, right? I want to ask you, Jack, the Pomodoro technique, I don't know about you, but not a lot of people have heard that. I think it's a fantastic technique. I know we use it a lot. It works really, really well for people like myself who has ADHD and potentially can get distracted by a lot of things, but also has a superpower of ADHD and loves to get really into a good focus loophole or rabbit hole. Can you tell me a little bit about the Pomodoro?
Absolutely. So the Pomodoro technique is a way of stacking your time and being very, very efficient. So it can be done in 30-minute intervals, or it can be done in 190-minute intervals. You can do it for as long as an hour and a half. So what you want to do is for 25 minutes in a 30-minute interval technique, we're going to say study. We're going to study, or we're going to work on a project diligently for 25 minutes. We're going to set a timer. When that timer goes off at the end of the 25 minutes, we can take a 5-minute break where we're going to go do something fun. We'll like listen to music, call a friend, play with a pet, go outside, go for a walk, look at some sun, maybe do some push-ups, some jumping jacks, just do something enjoying. Then you go back into exercising or back into the actual project. And when you're doing it that way, that refractory period of your brain, that 5 minutes down, allows you to get back up to maximal capacity, having that slight break. Now, the other technique is you can stack 25-minute sessions on top of each other, up to 90 minutes. So what you would do is you would stack 25, 25, 25, and 25, and then another 25. But then you would take, instead of a 5-minute break after all of those, you would take a 30-minute break. And so you would go for an hour and a half in a row, and then you would take a 30-minute off. And so this way, your brain, again, has that time to go ahead and heal and allow itself to go back to feeling at maximum capacity when you're studying or you're working on a project.
So what I'm hearing is that it's an extended amount of focused, intense work period followed by a shorter break, and then going back to it. Because a lot of times what we tend to find is, especially if you're neurodivergent or whatever, you can get into this focused state and then you're going for hours at a time and you're burning yourself out and you're not at your max capacity. So what the Pomodoro method is it's a longer focused, intense focused time followed by a break. And you can either do that at 25 focused with a 5-minute break, or an hour and a half focused with a 30-minute break. And this is where your brain can be at max capacity, followed by a break to give it that rest, and then right back at it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it. I think that's
great technique.
I think it's fantastic. Awesome. All right, let's see what our next ones are. The 5th one is fostering supportive relationships. This is one of the best and unique ways to get work-life balance. And here's the reason why is because when you cultivate a strong supportive network of family, friends, and colleagues who not only respect your boundaries, who respect your goal of work-life integration, but who are encouraging and supportive, that energy that they provide you is expansive. It is life-giving. And I know if you're listening or watching this right now, you know the difference between a friendship or a family member who, whenever you talk to them and you hang up the phone, you're like, whew, I need a nap. That was exhausting. Versus talking to a friend that was like, wow, I can go take on anything, because that was so encouraging, right? And so when you are surrounding yourself with like-minded people, I'm sure you've all heard the saying, you are a culmination of the 5 people you surround yourself with most. If those 5 people are negative, if they are critical, if they're constantly pointing out the worst case scenario or why you are messing up and failing, you are continually going to feel like you're not doing enough. You're not living enough. You're not having enough, right? But if you're surrounding yourself with people who are encouraging, supportive, cheerleading all of your successes, you are going to feel like your personal and professional life are on fire, that they're fulfilling, that they're impactful, because you are surrounding yourself with a great environment and community.
I love that. I know personally from my perspective that when I see you engaging your community, that makes you feel expansive and rejuvenates you, you're just a completely different person.
It is.
I could say that from experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been in both, right? I've had communities where I've been torn down, where I've been filled with insecurities and doubt because I've been surrounded with friends that wanted to tear me down. And it affected every area of my life, right? But now being surrounded by friends and family that are supportive and life-giving, it almost feels like I could take on the world, right? So it is one of those things, when you are doing your priority list and your value list, take a look at the people who are supporting those values as well.
I love that.
Yeah. All right. What's our final way?
The last one is taking care of yourself. Wow. This one's near and dear to both of our hearts, because prioritizing self-care is one of the Dennison household staples. We really love to focus on our physical, mental, and emotional well-beings, because we know with regular exercise, healthy eating, sufficient sleep, mindfulness practices, and engaging even in our own personal hobbies and activities that bring us joy and relaxation, allow us just to feel like the best versions of ourselves every single day. And it seems like we are able to expand more in the professional setting and in so many other areas when we're actually engaging this aspect of ourselves, of taking care of ourselves, because that's just something that we forget. We focus so much on the outward, so much on what we got to do, that we don't focus on this right here. And when we're not, so much just gets overlooked. So remembering to achieve the work-life balance, it's an ongoing process of feeling centered within your own self as well. It is so key for you to make sure that you are feeling aligned, you are taking care of yourself, and we need to make sure that we are having continuous assessments, adjustments, self-reflections, and it may look different for every single individual, depending on your personal circumstances, your career choices, and priorities. Make sure that you are intentionally managing your time, setting boundaries, and prioritizing your self-care. This way you can create a harmonious integration of work and personal life as a successful person.
Yeah. And when it comes to self-care, that's going to look different for everyone, right? And we're not talking about that self-care where it's like, just run a bubble bath, right? Or just take a shower, which everyone feels like a shower. No, shower is just basic care, right? And so what we mean by self-care is, how are you intentionally taking care of your personal growth? How are you taking care of the needs that you specifically need for your mental and physical health, right? And that could be a great night's sleep, eating healthy, mindfulness practices, like all of these things that Jack just said. And a lot of times, one of the most critical things that I want to hone in on real quick, as someone who has suffered 2 full-on burnouts that has landed her in the hospital, I want to very, very clearly make a point that this is very critical when it comes to work-life integration and work-life balance. A lot of times high achievers feel like, oh, it's okay, I'll take care of myself later. I just got to get this project done. I just got to get it done. I just got to push a little bit harder, just got to grind a little bit more. And what I have found is, it feels, depending on, especially if you're a woman listening to this, growing up in a society, for myself as well, growing up in a church where I was told multiple times that, the last will become first, and, have a servant's heart and be humble and all this other stuff. I was told to always put myself last, and that carried over into my professional life too. The problem is that was very damaging, and it made me very unhealthy in multiple ways. And I'm getting choked up about this because I'm very passionate about this, and I want people to hear me. When you put yourself first and you take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul, you are able to do more. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When you take that first few minutes to take care of yourself more, you can do more. And a lot of times, and what I really want to hone in on, we as women, or just people in general, feel we need to set aside an hour, right? Oh, I got to set aside an hour to work out. And if I can't get that, well then, whoops, I missed today. It is okay if the only thing you can do is 5 minutes of yoga, or 10 minutes of Pilates, or if you can only do a smoothie today, or if you can only journal for 5 minutes today. Whatever it is, if you can only do 5 minutes for yourself today, do 5 minutes. Because 5 minutes is better than 0. If you need to go onto YouTube and look for a 5-minute meditation, because that's all you can fit in while you're waiting to drop off the kids for school, or after, while sitting in the driveway before you walk into the house, do that. Because you are important and you are worth it, and you will have more energy, more time, more passion, more excitement, more joy in your life once you've put yourself first. Okay. I got very excited about it because it's so important. It's so important. And I don't want anyone, woman or man or other, to feel like they have to put themselves last, and you are worth putting yourself first. So on that note, I really do hope that you have enjoyed today's episode, and I do hope that it was valuable. I know that when you are putting your career first and you are looking to advance in your career, it is hard. It is hard to find work-life balance and work-life integration. And we find it very, very important. And we find that a lot of high achievers, a lot of professionals don't take the time to figure out what their priorities, what their values are, or set boundaries, or even take care of themselves. And if you are finding yourself in this situation right now where you're struggling to enjoy your personal time because work is burning you out or you're misaligned, book a call with us. We can help you out. We are here to help you out, or share this episode with a friend who might be struggling with it as well. If you have enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star review. It will absolutely help us out so that we can help more people. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others to discover the Career Advancement Academy. We hope that you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.